Hi, my name's Mike Tomorrow, and I want to welcome you to the latest episode of My Life with Asperger's. Today's topic I'm going to be talking about is something that I don't really care to talk about, but it has to be talked about because it happens in life, and we all need to deal with it at some point in our lives. Now, earlier in the series, I did a video about friends. Now, this is the opposite of that. This topic I'm going to be doing is about enemies. Everyone has enemies in this world. I mean, enemies. Excuse me. If I mispronounce it, I'm sorry, but you understand what I'm saying, okay? Why do we have enemies in this world? People have enemies in this world because they probably think differently, or they do things differently, or they express things differently, or they might be a different color, different race, different gender. But why do people have enemies? People have enemies for a whole bunch of reasons. And having enemies can hurt you. It can hurt you to know why a friend doesn't want to be a friend with you anymore. Or if you find out too late why a friend doesn't want to be a friend with you and you try to fix things and all that, it can be hard. Enemies are also the type of people that are kind of like rivals in sports world. Like you say, we go into enemy territory. Meaning, like, for Boston fans to go into New York to watch a baseball game. That's one of the examples of that. And that's a rivalry, too. And that rivalries can fall under enemies because that team is the enemy. That team is the team we want to beat. I used to be a Red Sox fan. And New York would be my rivalry. New York would be my enemy. Because the Yankees. Because the Red Sox and Yankees hate each other. Now, since I became a Tampa Bay Rays fan, now both Boston and New York are my enemies. Both the Red Sox and Yankees are enemies because they're both rivalries of Tampa Bay. Or, I'm a New England Patriots fan too. New York Jets are considered a rivalry, and they're considered enemies as well. Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins are the same way too, but I don't really consider them enemies as much as I do with the Jets because of the intense rivalry that they have. I'm also a fan of the Denver Broncos, and now I don't really get into rivalries between the Broncos and the Chiefs, Broncos and the Raiders, Broncos and the Chargers, but they have legacy right there. The history of the rivalries are right there. So, but why do I raised this question so many times, and I asked it so many times already. Why do we have enemies? Do we do things that we piss off each other? And that's why we create enemyships? The opposite of friendships, of course. Or do we do something wrong that might hurt someone and they don't want to be our friend anymore? To a victim of bullying, the bully might be an enemy to the victim. But, I understand they try to make up and be friends, but it can be hard. And that's why the bully and the victim might not want to be friends. They might be enemies for the rest of their lives. you know? Or I know people that used to be my friends or got real close to me at being my friends that we might fight about something or we disagree about something or we get on the wrong foot with each other and the next thing we know we're not friends anymore, we're enemies. And that's real tough on me to deal with that because sometimes I don't know why the people don't want to be friends with me anymore. Don't know why people want to be enemies. It's hard to deal with enemies, but we can deal with them by moving on. We don't have to be there for the enemy. You know, we don't have to do anything for the enemy. You know, I know it might be tough to deal with enemies, but in an environment like a workplace or at school or at college or a family even, we have to deal with enemies. And I know it's hard to escape it because the enemy might be in the same class as you. The enemy might be at the same work location as you. The enemy might have to work with you. And I understand that it might be tough to work with an enemy, but you're both there for the same reason. And you both might be paired up for the same reason, to get the job done. And to get the job done, you have to work with the enemy. I know it might be hard. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to do anything. But if you do your fair share of the work, you can get the job done. Don't let a battle ruin your friendship, and make it enemies. Don't do that, you know? I understand that enemies might have to work together here. Or they might have to be parked next to each other if they're camping next to each other for the weekend or whatever. But just relax and move on. We have enemies all over the world or all over the country. Well, I don't personally, but other people might. And I know that enemies are hard to deal with sometimes. Especially if you've been friends with someone for like over 10 or 20 years, or you've been friends with someone in childhood, and now they don't want to be your friend, and they might be an enemy of yours now, and it's hard to figure out why do they not want to be your friend anymore, and you try to change, and they still don't want to accept you, and that's real hard to deal with. And I had that situation happen to me like maybe around 10 years ago. We had a bad friendship breakup, and it was real tough for me to get my life going and focused and everything because of this breakup. I had a hard time struggling in school, at college that time. I wasn't doing so good, and that might have been the problem, me getting it over. I was thankful that I found a college program that I was able to get away from it for a little while, and everything worked out okay. I was able to move on. I was able to meet new friends, and hey, I'm still friends with people today that I did the college program with, and I'm very proud of that. But of course, there are some people that I met that don't want to be friends with me, and that's okay too. You have to take what you get. But I hope that you don't make too many enemies out there in this world, because it can be rough. So, for me, sometimes it's hard to figure out why people don't want to be friends with me anymore. But then again, you gotta listen to them to figure out why, too. You know? Enemies might not agree on things. And that's fine, too. But there are other people out there that you can be friends with. You know? Please don't let one bad friendship breakup, cause you to be enemies with the whole world. Don't do that. You know, don't let that one bad experience make you think of how you should have, how to treat friends and how to have friends. Everybody's different, and everybody has their friendships differently out there. And if you can't agree on a perfect friendship, or not so perfect friendship, but I mean a reasonable friendship, then what's the point of being their friend, you know? So, I advise you, please, be careful not to mess around with the enemy so much. So, alright? So, if you have a bad friendship, don't worry about it. If it turns out to be an enemy, don't worry about it. You know? Just let it go and meet new friends. So, alright? I'm going to let you guys go. I'll talk to you guys all later. Make sure you comment on the videos, and I'll answer your questions. Bye for now.